All right, today we're going to tackle a really specific and, let's be honest, kind of frustrating issue that a lot of Jeep owners run into, that diagnostic trouble code C2101-17. If you've ever seen this little guy pop up on your dash, you know exactly what I'm talking about, that sinking feeling. So let's just get right into it and figure out what your Jeep is trying to tell you.
Yeah, we've all been there, right? That sudden, horrible feeling when a new warning light just blinks to life on the dashboard. It feels like your car is speaking a completely different language. Well, think of code C2101-17 as a very specific message. And today, we're going to translate it together so we can turn that confusion into a real action plan.
Okay, let's dive deep into this thing. Before we can even think about fixing the problem, we have to understand what the code actually means. So, we're going to break down all that technical jargon into plain, simple English.
So at its very core, C2101-17 officially means battery voltage high, and the specific failure is circuit voltage above threshold. What does that mean for you? Well, in simple terms, your Jeep's brain, the control module, is seeing an electrical voltage that's way higher than it should be for normal, safe operation. Now that little phrase, above threshold, is actually super important. It tells us that the voltage is definitely out of whack, but it's not necessarily a direct short circuit right to the battery. It's a more specific kind of electrical problem, which, believe it or not, actually helps us narrow things down.
And that's the next logical question, right? If the voltage is too high, what's the magic number we're talking about? The system is actually looking for two different thresholds that can set this code off.
Okay, here's the first trigger point. If the system sees the battery voltage climb above 16.5 volts when the ignition is on, even if you're just sitting in the driveway, that's enough to set the code. The second condition is even more extreme. If the ignition voltage spikes all the way above 18 volts while you're actually driving, moving faster than 4 miles per hour, or about 6 kilometers per hour, that'll also trigger that C2101-17 code. So now that we know what the code is and when it gets triggered, we can finally get to the most important part. Why is it happening? Let's start our investigation and look at the 4 main culprits, the usual suspects, behind this high voltage reading. So, we've got 4 key areas to check out. The problem could be coming from the main computer, the powertrain control module, or it could be related to the anti-lock brake module. Then again, it might just be a problem with the wiring in the circuit itself, or something as basic as a faulty battery.
Okay, so this is where it gets practical. Knowing the possible causes is great, but what really matters is knowing how to actually fix them, right? So let's build a clear action plan that connects each potential issue to a real solution.
This table right here, this is your diagnostic roadmap. It perfectly links each of those 4 potential causes we just talked about with a specific first step. For instance, if you think it's the PCM or the ABS system, you've got to scan for more codes. But if you're leaning towards the circuit or the battery, that's when you start with a good old-fashioned physical inspection.
Let's zoom in on that first one for a second. If you're suspicious of the powertrain control module, you absolutely cannot just guess. You have to connect a proper scan tool, read any other codes that might be hiding in there, and then follow the specific repair path for those codes. Think of our C2101-17 code as a symptom. The scan tool is what helps you find the actual disease.
So, we've gone through the definitions, the causes, and the solutions. After all that, what is the one single, most important takeaway when you see that C2101-17 code?
It all boils down to this. Getting the diagnosis right is everything. The goal here isn't to just start swapping out parts hoping the light goes away. It's about finding the real root cause of the problem to make sure your vehicle is safe and running the way it's supposed to. Look, taking the time to actually follow these steps, checking for other codes, looking at the connections, testing the battery, that is what is going to save you a ton of time and money in the long run. A methodical approach like this is what keeps you from replacing a super expensive computer when the real problem was just a loose wire. So, that warning light? It's not a mystery anymore. It's a puzzle. And now you have the key pieces you need to find the solution. You're ready to tackle this problem methodically and with confidence. Hopefully, this helps you get back on the road safely. Thanks for tuning in.